So guys, hey there. 1, 2, 3. Let me check. Test. 3. Now it goes. Great. So we're here in Frankfurt, and there's lots of rumors about the digital euro. In my opinion, that industry which you see here, where you have here Deutsche Bank and a couple of other towers, like this tower above, right? They change their business model, especially the old one here, Commerzbank. So, in my opinion, what the industry doesn't get much right at the moment is that the monetary system is fucked. I just can't say differently. In Asian society, we face different struggles. So consumption is going to be lowered, especially since the accumulation of wealth there will going to be the wealth transfer. Okay, but will the next generation going to be earning more than the other past generation? And the answer to this is uncertain at the moment. Less people, huge wealth transfer. But what's for sure is that every person, definitely here, generates lots of data. And in my opinion, the central bank, which you can't see here for the moment because, well, yeah, the tower is on the other side of the city. It used to be here. The central bank doesn't understand, at least right now, that they first and foremost never had a cap over inflation / they were never much really able to handle the inflation situation. More so, they were trying to guesstimate what's going on the street, right? So they will also not have the power over the data flow, which data today replaces this jolly thing here called European currency. So if the European digital currency is not allowing banks, as you see here with Deutsche Bank or with Commerzbank, right, to be part of the data economy, well, the central bank, in this regard also the euro, is fucked. So there's gonna be the opportunity for tech companies to purchase these banks and put them on the blockchain, and just not saying, yeah, I'm gonna put it on the blockchain, but actually having added value by extracting information, sharing information, and building a financial system which is truly inclusive, whereas data companies through the banking system are rewarding users to share data. In my opinion, this is going to be the future of whatever this is, because this, crashed 2011. So 2011, we already had the first crisis. This huge bank here, Commerzbank, big German bank, itself, it had issues. Recently, they got rid of their, or at least the German government got rid of most of the shares at Commerzbank. The dream of the central bank, in my opinion, is to have control over the total money supply. But guys, let's be fucking honest. They won't. They necessarily wouldn't. And also, the problem that you face with institutions on a broader scale today, if you try to bring up data that doesn't corroborate with their own opinion on what's going to happen, they literally just going to exclude it or try to skew perception about the success of the digital euro or whatever, in order to create a biased opinion out and about in the financial industry and broader the world, to make for a higher acceptance rate by default. So in my opinion, this is not the way it's going to go. What's going to happen is most people, normal people who are not financial guys, gals, will probably face the struggle of artificial intelligence especially the educated ones, the ones who are working with their hands and being laborers, right? They won't face big troubles. But the bank's gonna feel it the first, at first, and states also, with the slowing down population rate, higher death count through old age. You're gonna have the fact that more wealth is gonna be concentrated amongst fewer hands, and more people who should be able to live a middle class life wouldn't be able to do so. So we need a situation where appeasement of each individual's financial capacity is possible, and the only solution is going to be a data sharing system. And that data sharing system is not going to be owned by the central bank. It's going to be privately owned, like the Fed, and it's going to be kind of like a Fed for tech companies. We've seen the first moves, especially by Walmart and Amazon, to centralize their multi-trillion gross merchandise volume in order to be bank independent, right? So that's gonna happen, and that's not gonna happen in the US alone. It's gonna happen worldwide, especially looking at the fact that more and more people also kind of feel ripped off when they are not rewarded for sharing the data with tech companies, and that is a huge advantage because basically you solve a two-ended marketplace problem. On the one hand, we have these banks like Deutsche Bank and Commerzbank and others who want to be relevant in a truly digital world. So the only way they're going to do that is not necessarily through debt and lending and overall. It's going to be through managing of assets, and the only asset class that is rapidly expanding is data. Be it tokenization of assets, be it whatever you see that is related to information flow. These banks also have another problem. They massively lack the ability to have modern IT systems, so they would need investment from a bigger player in the tech field. And for a tech company to accrue over 200 billion in let's say, market cap, it's kind of easy or easier compared to a bank. The regulatory oversight at the moment is lacking anyway on a broader scale understanding of the digital world, because the banking world is also an information system, but it's built on silos, and the digital world definitely hates silos, especially AI. The more data you have, the more normalized the data is, the easier it is to analyze it, and the better it is to do predictive analytics or whatever you want to do with that information. So banks are prone to be disrupted, but they are going to be disrupted in a way that won't please governments, which usually issue these licenses. And also, these banks are probably completely dependent on the change of consumers being just randomly paid for their data, because they are going to be the ones banking that revenue, these royalties. So a good shift you will probably start at least with a niche industry. In that case, niche, quote unquote, would be something like music and retail. That would be my best guess, as of the talks that I had with people in these industries, and my co-founders and I being in the retail industry. We definitely want to see this happen, because the more people are getting used to be paid for their data, the less the banking world actually truly matters, because the technology is already there to kind of like make them obsolete. But you need governments at least to understand that the only way for economies to grow is to have users share their data, have predictive systems analyze consumption patterns, grow the overall economy in terms of total gross merchandising volume, exports, imports, exports more specifically for those nations who already export to nations, imports for those nations who would be likely to have an asset-light model, and then on the next step, go further and understand how to become more efficient, produce more with less. And that's only possible in a data-driven world where consumers share the data. And so these are my 10 minutes of chatting for Christmas. overall, I hope that that is a message that would be, prone to give you hope for a better future, a future where wealth is not tied necessarily only in few hands, but actually shared. And the next step is definitely to understand that the central bank hates the idea for developers to develop anything on their fucking ledger. So the problem will be that if you're launching such a platform, now we're going to minute 11 and 12 for the ones who are doing overtime. If you want to launch such a platform, then you need to have developers at least licensed as a financial provider in terms of a PSP payment service provider to develop apps on that ledger, and that for the moment is not at all plans of the European Central Bank. So basically the central bank, including the leadership of Madame Schnabel and Madame Lagarde, they make themselves fucking obsolete, and I find it hilarious. Luckily, both of these leaders won't be there when these decisions are put into place in terms of consumers and platforms, and necessarily we as platform providers as well as users of such platforms need to come to terms towards a future which is a better together future, not a highly regulated future where there's like lots of poverty and a couple of people running the world, because we know how this plays out. It doesn't play out well. Anyhow, that's my few couple words for Christmas. Merry Christmas to you and your loved ones. And then reach from Frankfurt. Looking forward to be listening to your comments and advice / hints / ideas. And subscribe and comment. This time this video hasn't been with my face. I hope that's okay. Peace out. Have a great Christmas and start the upcoming year.